watching Shalom TV, celebrating Jewish culture. Funding for Shalom TV has been provided by the following. And by viewers like you.
Jewish Education in Media is pleased to present L'Chaim, a program that highlights the people, issues, and events of importance to the Jewish community. Now here is your host, Rabbi Mark Golub.
I'm Mark Golub, and it's always a treat to be able to speak to Israelis and get their perspective on life in Israel and the issues confronting the Jewish state every day. And so I'm especially pleased to introduce you to Hadas Yosef, an Ethiopian Israeli whose family made Aliyah when she was only 2 years old. Hadas has grown up as a virtual Sabra, a native Israeli. She served in the IDF in Air Force Intelligence, then went on to attend Tel Aviv University, where she excelled in architectural design and has since transferred to Israel's most prestigious school of design, the Bezalel Academy of Arts and Design in Jerusalem, where Hadas is currently working on a design project for future absorption centers for immigrants with farming skills. And Hadas, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You have been in Israel virtually 28 years of your life?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I assume that you remember very little of that journey your family took when you were only 2 years old from Gondar, and you went across the desert to the Sudan, correct?
Yep.
And what's interesting, as I read about you, you had at that point, you were one of 4 children, but your mother was pregnant.
Yeah.
She made this trek while she was pregnant. Do you understand that from an American Jewish perspective, your family are heroes? What you did, what you were willing to go through, was an amazing source, an amazing strength, an amazing statement about Jewish identity. My first question there for you is, as you grew up in your family's home and your mother gave birth to your 4th sibling, her 5th child, while you were, I believe, in a camp in the Sudan before you even were able to leave for Israel. What was the Jewish tone of your home growing up? To what extent was Jewishness and this dream your parents had to come to Israel communicated to you as a child and as a young person, as an adolescent, as a teenager growing up in Israel?
So as you know, that I grew up in Israel, so my experience of being a Jewish person is like a mixed combination between the Ethiopian traditions that we had and the Israeli home that we combined it together. So for us, I think we kind of got from both worlds, you know, like you can have like the old Jewish tradition from Ethiopia with the new songs and heritage of the Israeli heritage, the Sabarian heritage. And in the way of Jewish life, I think it's kind of a combination, you know. Like we still celebrate the Sigd. It's, if you know, the Sigd is a special holiday that all Ethiopian Jewish communities celebrate. They used to celebrate it back in Ethiopia. It's, I think it's originated in book Jeremiah. It says that once a year you should, God says, once a year you should come to the mountain of God and pray. And I think most of Jewish communities don't know even about it. I think it's kind of forgotten over the years.
You're correct.
Yeah, and but the Ethiopian Jewish community, they did not know about all the changes that were going on in the rest of the world, so they skipped on doing it. So for us, we don't like, about Hanukkah and stuff, we don't celebrate Hanukkah because we came to Ethiopia before the fall of the Second Temple. And but we do celebrate Yom Kippurim, and we celebrate Rosh Hashanah, and we say
You
we
celebrate
rest on
the
Shabbat.
biblical holidays.
The biblical holidays, yes. And
What do you do on this holiday that is again a holdover from the Ethiopian experience? Describe it to me.
Well, there is two ways. One that used to be celebrated in Ethiopia, and one which is celebrated in Israel. The one that was in Ethiopia, every village that was a Jewish village in Ethiopia would come down to one mountain. I don't remember the name, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And the greatest rabbi of the whole Jewish Ethiopian community in Ethiopia would come and start praying from the Orit. The Orit is the name of the Bible, the Torah, if you know. You say in Aramaic Deoraita,
Yes.
in Amharic you say Orit. So if you know, maybe I can let you know more.
Excellent.
Yeah, and do you know that Amharic is a Semitic name,
Yes.
Semitic language as well as Hebrew, and it's written in the Gaz language. Gaz is one of the oldest Semitic languages. And he reads from that book, and they pray for God, and they pray for the day that they would come back to Jerusalem. It's the New Jerusalem. They never knew about the fact that Israel was actually existed. They always dreamt about the heavenly Jerusalem. For them, it was like a prophet coming true to come to Israel. For them, like coming to Israel is like elevating. They did not know that you have roads, you have TV, like you have real people. Like it's for them, it was like a prophet. So that's the nature of kind of Judaism that they had.
That's what it was in Ethiopia. How do you celebrate it now in Israel?
In Israel, so today the government also help us to keep this tradition. Once a year, everyone comes, every boarding school, every high school, buses, how do you call it, clubs, like for like the elderlies have special clubs, many buses from all over the country. We gather around in one mountain in Jerusalem. I think today it's in Armon HaNatziv. It's sometimes moving, and where they can have a look of Jerusalem, of the Holy Temple, where the Holy Mountain.
Yes.
And because there is not enough place in the Kotel for so many people, so they have a mountain which has open view to the Holy Mountain. And everybody prays there. So now they're praying and thanking God in the real, actual place of God. You know, like we are here. So this is what they're saying now.
Do you have any sense of what this means for your mother and father?
Wow, I could not imagine myself. You know, like so many generations of dreaming for coming back and finally having that. For me, it was a fact. Okay,
Yes.
I've kind of born here. You know. I've kind of know who I am as my identity, you know, like, but for them, I'm sure by feeling different over there, feeling not belonging there and wanting to be somewhere else, dreaming about being somewhere else and finally making it, you know, like it's a big excitement, I think, for all Beta Israel community. So I could not feel it because I cannot like imagine how do I feel
Yes,
if I wasn't.
you never lived without it.
Yeah, exactly.
But for
me.
your parents, this was a dream come true.
Yeah, I know. She told me that they were kissing the ground. They were so excited. People start to, how do you call it, tears.
Crying.
Yeah, and everybody got dressed in the best clothes and the white clothes, and one's coming down from the plane.
Now, what is Shabbat like for you and your family?
Oh, that's it's a nice story. I kind of did a research. I asked my mother how it is. And like every Shabbat, me and my mother, it's when I had more time to come to visit my parents' house, since I live in Tel Aviv. So once in 3 weeks I come back home, and all the time I kind of, you know, like more and more stories, please tell me more. And she told me that in Shabbos, they used to wake up really, really early in the morning, like they do today, but I'll tell the whole story. And all the women start the preparation very early. It's even on Thursday evening they started. And the first thing that you can smell is like the bread. It's called a dabo. It's a special bread that they make for...
What is it called?
Dabo.
Dabo.
It's a bread. It's like a thick, round bread. And the smell starts, all the neighborhood filled up with smell, and the cleaning, and the preparation of the food, and everybody's gathering. And eventually when the Shabbat starts to come, it's like when they see that the sun is coming down, and the men are going to the synagogue. My father was actually a kes. So we had a synagogue in our yard. So everybody came from the, like a village is about, I think, 15 houses for one village. It's like small villages, you know, which are like neighbored with a small village. Like one family had a village and another family had a village. And everybody would come to my father's synagogue, and they would have their prayers. And like the women have their special songs, they would sing around in the house with the little children. And like, I think that's a song, I wish my mother was here, because she could really, she's like my inspiration. And you know, hearing her telling these stories.
What is her name?
Really, her name is Wuvnesh in Amharic. Wuvnesh is the best, the prettiest, you know. And
Someday
in
I'll meet
Hebrew,
her.
her name is Nava. It's
Nava?
the same thing. Yeah, it's
So someday you'll make sure I meet her.
okay.
And we'll talk about this with her. She sounds like an extraordinary woman,
Yeah, she is.
a strong personality. Your father as well?
Yeah, he is.
And what is he doing now?
He is still a kes, but I think because the keses in Israel, they're not allowed to marry yet. All the legalization is kind of tough. I think it's kind of negotiating about the details, and I don't know too much about that. But he's like a spirit. If you know what is a kes, it's kind of a spiritual
Leader,
guidance,
yes.
yeah, for people. It's
Come
less
back
than
to-
a leader than like you come back. You come to him like as a spiritual guidance, you know.
Yes.
Like
But the word rabbi did not apply to your community in Ethiopia.
no.
Right. Again, anything that is of a rabbinic nature and rabbinic creation happened outside of the Ethiopian community, which basically directed all of its attention to the Torah. That's what it knew Judaism as. Come back now to finish Shabbat. If I were at your parents' home in Ethiopia on a Friday night, what would I see on the table? Would there have been 2 candles?
No, I don't think that they. I actually.
And there would not have been a kiddush either, because they didn't have the
No,
kiddush.
I think there was a kiddush.
There was?
I think.
Okay.
But you know what? You're getting into details that I don't know. So
Fair enough.
it's. But I need to check that.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
If I were at your house now,
Yeah.
in Israel, on a Friday night, is there a Shabbat celebration?
Yeah.
And is it more in keeping now with what we know, those of us who grew up in
Yeah,
rabbinic
I think
Judaism?
it's a combination of 2 cultures. In the morning, she would make the dabo.
So you wouldn't
In
have
the evening,
twisted
we make a
challah.
kiddush and we open the siddur.
You do?
Yeah, and
Okay.
we open the siddur.
Candles or no?
Candles, of
Yes.
course, candles. My mother puts, yeah.
Okay.
She also like put 2 candles for her father and her mother, you know, and also 2 candles for Shabbat, you know, every Shabbat.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
You don't have the Ashkenazi challah, the challah bread.
No, we don't.
You have your own bread.
Yeah.
What's it called again?
Double.
Double. Okay, very nice. Is it delicious?
Very delicious.
Okay. I can't wait
Yeah.
to try it. All right. You grow up in an Ethiopian home. Your family begins in an absorption center,
Yeah.
and then they move out of there.
Yeah.
Do they move to a series of homes, or have you grown up in one
I
place?
grew up in one place.
Where is it?
In Migdal HaEmek, which is very close to Natsert Illit. It's like 20 minutes drive from there. Yeah.
Is it an exclusively Ethiopian community?
Oh no, it's very combined community. You have from all, I think, like 6 cultures in one city. You know, even more.
Ashkenazic, Sephardic, Ethiopian, the whole gamut?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You have people from Poland, and you have people from, what do you call it, Kurdistan, and people from Morocco, and people, let me see, Russian, and and trying to map. It's like
Each has a communities within the city.
yeah,
Made
we are all in one building.
Yes.
But you know how people
Really?
yeah.
All in one building.
Yeah, and my neighbor in the third floor,
Yes.
she's from Kurdistan.
Yes.
And another neighbor of mine is Morocco. And another neighbor is, I think, is from Iraq, I think. But you know, all kind of combinations.
And did you grow up with people your age from all of these different communities?
Yeah, of course.
And they were your friends?
Yeah.
Okay. You know, one of the interesting things for American Jews is that we grew up in America. And the black-white tension in America, even today, as wonderful as it is now in America compared to before through the 1950s and 60s, we have one sense of what it is for peoples to mix, get along, and live together. Have you ever had to deal with what Americans would call racism because there were Israelis who treated Ethiopians because you were from Ethiopia and because Ethiopians are black? Was there any kind of discrimination that you have had to endure?
I don't think I felt any direct discrimination or any kind of discrimination. I think maybe there is sometimes like a stigma. This is like what sometimes can make people feel a little bit alienated from each other. But once you break that stigma and you show them, okay, I'm not the person you thought I am. And that's the thing that always surprises people. So I don't think there is any kind of discrimination. There are some things, you know, that been published in the newspapers, like extreme cases. I'm not going to say they not exist. They are exist, but they're not in a daily basis life. You know, I don't meet them in the street. You know, it doesn't happen to me. Maybe it will happen to me. I wish it won't, but you know, but I don't think that's something that's happening in a day, you know, in daily basis. And
so when you went to school, you were totally comfortable with your classmates, your teachers, and the school you went.
Definitely, I never felt special in school, you know, like you feel such a warm, hugging, surviving. Like my teachers are the one who grew the love inside of me for school, you know, for learning. They always like, how do you say that, make me want to grow and always
achieve more and more academically, yes. Well, you've had, but our audience should know you've had an especially successful academic career, and that's why you are where you are today. And if I knew you as a, let's say, 16-year-old or 15-year-old, what would you be doing for fun? What would we do
as
for
a 16?
fun? Yeah, what would we do for fun together? We're both 16. What do you want to do today? What did you and your friends do?
Because in Migdal Hamek we didn't have a cinema. We used to go to Afula for that. It's you know, in the north of Israel. Yes. It's a very small town, so for cinemas it's not very economical thing to do. And but we would hang around the neighborhood. We would play. I don't know what do you call it. We would chat and stuff, and maybe we go to Afula to do some shopping. And
very nice.
Yeah.
Do you have dances?
And when I was 16, yeah. I used to go to also Bnei Akiva, and when I was a little bit older, then I joined the Noar Oved Lomed. I don't know if you know
No,
it.
I don't.
So I was there for a few months, and yeah, we used to dance also. Like.
So when you were 16, when you were in high school, did you have a boyfriend?
No.
You didn't have a boyfriend?
No. I came from a bit of traditional house, so I went to. Religious school. So for us, it was kind of separation. Boys are here, girls are here.
Interesting.
Yeah. Just look in the liver.
That changed when you went into the IDF.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
The IDF is a very different kind of environment than the environment that I was growing. It's like a real melting pot. There you meet like everyone, like people that you never thought that you were going to meet, like people who live in Ramat Aviv and people who are, I don't know, like I think one of the things that made me think about being an architect, I always thought about, oh, why being an architect? I'm not sure. I need to be a lawyer, I need to be a doctor, you know, all the serious like impressive things to do, or be a
Physicist?
Yeah. But when I got to the army, I met this guy who came. He was in Miluim. You
Yes.
know what it is?
Sure. It's his period of service
Yeah.
during the year.
Yeah.
Military service.
And he was an architect, and he came and drew something for our base. You know, they needed to do some reconstruction, and I was like, interesting. And I was always looking what he's doing, you know. So I wanted to be involved in that. So I started thinking about it, and when I graduated, when I finished the army, my friends bought me some paintings. I never wanted to recognize the fact that I know how to paint. I always wanted to be like, you know, be this, be that, be very... And they always just gave me all the jobs to draw and stuff, and then I recognized the fact that I know how to paint and I can use it, you know, and I have an imagination and I'm a creative person, so I decided to combine it together. So this is how I started thinking about architecture and...
That's a lovely story. It happened during your experience
in
the service,
yeah.
in the Army. You were in Air Force Intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do?
I was in the Air Force in a unit.
Yes.
Maybe I'm not allowed to say too much about it. In a unit that held deadly electronic affairs.
Was it interesting work?
It was very interesting to notice, like, to see everything in, like, from kind of above, because I used to meet a lot of maps, so it's interesting to learn about it. And
when you live in Israel,
mm-hmm.
are you ever afraid because of either some act of terrorism
mm-hmm.
or Iran's getting a nuclear weapon and Israel is surrounded by Arab countries that don't particularly like it?
mm-hmm.
When day to day for you, were you ever afraid?
To tell the truth, I don't think I'm afraid from living there, because it's kind of reality that you grow into it. But I think as a nation, we know it's there, but we don't recognize it every day. It's like there. It's like in the back of your mind somewhere, and you're kind of aware of it, but not aware of it. So it's a different way of life, you know. Like you go to a mall, you open your bag and you show, like, to a guy there who's standing and to look. I don't know if you've been to Israel
Yes.
and you've experienced that.
Yes.
So it's strange. Like everywhere you need to be checked, you know.
Yes.
So that's kind of brings you back to the scariness part. But I think on a daily basis, like, I feel very, very secure. I can tell you. There have been some terror once in a while, you know, like before, I don't remember when was that, when all the bombings used to be. That was really scary. Like you used to make an appointment and you were afraid, like, I used to live in Afula. I used to study in Afula. My mother and my family are living in Migdal HaEmek. So I made an appointment with my mother. Once I finished school, she would come and pick me up and we'll go do some shopping. But then I heard there was bombings, and my heart just dropped, you know, like, oh my God, she was on the bus on her way to Afula, where the bus got hit.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh no, what are you going to do now? You know, like, how can you find out what happened? And we didn't have cellular phone back then. So I went to the secretary and I called, and everybody was so stressed. And eventually I found out that she came just 2 hours after. So I'm like so relieved, you know, like something just held her back and she didn't. And yeah, it was kind of a very scary. And you know, like I was sitting in the classroom, you hear a big boom, and then you see something, you know, like a smoke, very big smoke coming into the sky, and you just see it from your classroom. Like living in this kind of reality is kind of scary. But there is not any more suicide bombings, but now there is rocket in Sderot in the south. So it's for them, my heart goes for them. Mm-hmm. It's living in this kind of mm-hmm. atmosphere. It's probably very hard.
If I was speaking with your mother and father,
mm-hmm.
and I asked them, what was the hardest thing for them, or what is the hardest thing today about being an Ethiopian Jew
mm-hmm.
in Israel, what would they tell me?
Well, I think that sometimes, like in neighbor situations, sometimes you can notice like there is kind of misunderstanding sometimes. You know, one person cultural thing and the other person, it's like we make Ethiopian weddings, and Ethiopian weddings sometimes you do it twice. You do it once in the place where you book or stuff, and sometimes you can. And the parallel version to it is doing it underneath your block. This is how you say it here?
Yes.
Your building.
Yes.
So you have a big yard, and we celebrate it here. So some of the neighbors join, and they would do, I don't know how you say it, like when you do, like kulululu, you know how you say it?
Yes.
And the Moroccans ones come and celebrate and dance, and everybody's so happy. And some of them were like, okay, how long is it going to take, okay? I think I want to go and sleep. It's about 12. So there is some differences in culture, but I think this is the most beautiful part of it. Like you notice all the differences and all the cultural differences between the people, and just, you know, observing it in one another. It's amazing. I think it's amazing society by its ingredients, you know, which it makes the whole picture, you know, together.
Did they ever have problems getting housing?
Oh, I think, yeah, to tell the truth, yeah, we are facing. But the government is, once you come to Israel, the government gives you an ability to buy a house for the newcomers more. I think in my time, they didn't have the opportunity. When we came to Israel, we didn't have the opportunity for it, but we were given a public housing in a very low rent, like something you cannot imagine. And this is how we lived till this day. Because of my parents were divorced, so they couldn't like afford of, my mother needed to raise 6 children and pay for everything and still get a house and from one person's salary. So it was really hard. But we never got a house. But I think the government gives us all the opportunities to live in the way in the situation that we are.
Mm-hmm.
So.
There were always issues raised about the Jewishness of the Ethiopian Jewish community.
Yeah.
And the rabbinate in Israel, which is obviously Orthodox, in fact, ultra-Orthodox, at some point suggested that Ethiopians had to go through a conversion process or they wouldn't be accepted as complete Jews by the state of Israel. How has that impacted your own family?
I don't feel personally, I don't feel it. I think that in history there used to be some stuff, like in the first Olim who came to Israel, there was something with Brit Milah and things. But ever since that, there was a big scream and a big, how do you call it, Hafgana.
Yes.
And it stopped. And I don't think we ever felt it. We are getting married is by the Rabbi Orthodox, and we don't have any kind of a problem with that establishment unless there is something I'm not aware of it. So
it's good to hear. Again, within the American Jewish community, there is this preoccupation, in a good way, I believe, hoping that there can be peace for the state of Israel and peace between Israel and its Arab neighbors. And there are people who believe now that there is a Palestinian leadership on the West Bank, Mahmoud Abbas and Fayyad, who would really make peace with the Jewish state and live in a two-state solution side by side.
yeah.
And then there are many American Jews and also some Israelis who are afraid that although that would be the ideal, the reality is that there is no Palestinian leadership that could really deliver peace for a two-state solution to be realistic. And one of the things I was hoping to understand from you, you're a 30-year-old Israeli. When you think about your own future, and maybe one day you'll have your own family and your own children, can you imagine there being real peace between Israel and the Palestinians?
No, from the latest news that I hear everywhere, in Libya, in Yemen, in everywhere, you could never predict that happening. not even once. Like, you think the world is going in the same line, but surprise is always happening. So never predict anything. For me, I wish that tomorrow would be peace. I wish that tomorrow we could coexist and stop it, just stop this whole war thing. And because this is just people who wants to live next to people, and you just need to know how to make it, And I think, but the problem is sometimes that the Hamas maybe, I think sometimes, like, the problem is the Palestinians are not aware. Sometimes I don't want to talk, like too much, and sometimes things can come out from proportion when you say something on TV. But like, maybe they didn't choose the right government to do that. They don't even want to go for next election, the Hamas. They don't allow it. They just eliminated the rest of the competition. So that kind of makes democracy being a hard thing for them. And I don't think that they take care of their population so much, because if they want to take care of their population, then they would manage to talk with the Israeli government, and they would not use them as, like, for use of the media and show so many pictures of, of Palestine, poor Palestine, and instead of just helping them and help us to help them, and not being in the way, and not use them for propaganda. And I think it's very unfortunate.
What about average Palestinian people? Do you believe Palestinians could live with Israelis side by side?
I think so. You can see examples. One of the people in my the delegation, she's an Arab Israeli, and she represents herself first an Israeli, then as an Arab. So for her, she's a perfect combination of all of this issue. How we can coexist. I don't say that everybody has to be Israeli, but I don't know why we have to fight each other. Why in New York you can live Muslims next to Jewish, next to Japanese, next to Chinese, and next to Thai people and not fight? You can live multicultural. You don't have to fight in order to live. The fact that you belong to some kind of culture, it doesn't mean that you hate the other person. Like where I used to, the absorption center where I was, it was in Natzeret Elite, if you know, which is right close to Natzeret. Natzeret is like mostly populated by Arabs, and it's very close. It's like you cannot even see the boundaries between these two cities. People come from here to do shopping in here, and people come to here to sit in the park over here, and people come to Migdal Emek as well. So it's all kind of combined, You don't have to be in war. We can still sit together in the same land.
Mm-hmm. That's very lovely. And you say it very beautifully, and I appreciate that. What do you love most about living in Israel and being an Israeli?
Like living in Tel Aviv is like the most amazing experience, I can say. It's like a smaller scale of New York. A lot of cultural nightlife, like many galleries, many, concerts. My friends are all like musicians, artists, and everything from everywhere, like in the sea, in the beach, and a lot of academies, and you go to universities and you learn so many stuff, and for me, it's an amazing experience to take so much from my environment, it's nice. I really like it, and the beautiful landscape.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I saw a quote that is supposed to have been said by you, where you talked about how, for the Ethiopian Jewish community, anything connected to Israel and Judaism is sacred. For you personally, I asked you what you love about being an Israeli. I want to know if it's important to you, the Israeli part separate. Is it important to you, Hadas, to be a Jew?
It's very important to me. It's a big part of what I am. It's a big part of my own conversations to myself deep inside. This is the only way that I can talk to my inner self.
What do you say to yourself?
Like when you talk to God, like you go through periods of times that you kind of trying to describe what is God for you, but it's always there as a, in the Jewish way that I know. Never mind if I read the book about Buddhism, if I go to India, I see some Hinduism, but it's always the same God that since I was this little, and pray to Him in my, and I ask my biggest dreams and the smallest wishes, so.
There are people who worry that the young Israeli today is detached from being Jewish, that there is an Israeli identity, but not a Jewish neshama, not a Jewish identity. There are American Jews and Israelis come and talk to me, and they tell me they worry that there could be an Israel without a Jewish sensitivity. And I'm asking you about yourself and your friends. To what extent, that's why I asked the question, to what extent is the Jewish part of your life and the Jewishness for your friends, to what extent is that a central part of your being as opposed to being a Jew who happens to live in Israel? There's a difference between an Israeli and a Jew. Speak to me about that.
I think that in some way, in a very national way, that every Jewish person in Israel thinks of him as a Jewish. I don't think that a lot of, it's not that I made a survey and asked everyone, but I see like my most left-wing people who I know, and the most people who you can say, the most secular people who I met, they still have that identity as a Jewish person, and they still, Yom Kippurim is still like, you can feel the city, like it's going to sleep in Yom Kippur. Nothing moves. It doesn't matter. Like Tel Aviv, sometimes, like people say, it's like the most secular place in Israel. And everything just shut down. Everybody's walking with whites in the middle of the city. You cannot imagine that in New York. You cannot imagine it anywhere else in the world. But everything just shut down. Everybody's going with whites. They just going in the middle of the road because there is no cars, nothing. People going to synagogues, and some don't, some do, but they still like, if they don't, then some of them are feeling guilty or not, like it's still an issue. It's still there, and it's still like, I don't think it's going to leave, that fast. If there are people who are worried about the Jewish identity among the Israelis, I don't think it's like vanishing or something. It's always there.
And do you feel a connection to Jews all over the world?
I feel connection, but the fact that they're abroad and we don't see them on a daily basis. But once I see a yarmulke in the street, I feel like like he's like a part of us. So I see, oh, it's a Jewish guy.
Well, I wish you every success.
Thank you so much.
You're a remarkable human being. You told me when you were in high school you didn't have a boyfriend.
Yeah.
You have a boyfriend now? Because everybody's going to watch you on Shalom TV. They're all going to want to be your boyfriends. So when people come to Israel, they're going to try to look you up in Tel Aviv.
No, I don't.
You are beautiful inside and out.
You.
You are, by the way, you are a wonderful spokesperson, Shlicha for the state of Israel, and you should travel all over the country. Let as many young people and older people meet you and get to know you. I wish you kol tuv v'hatzlacha in all your work, in your personal life. And again, when we come to Israel, maybe we'll have a chance to see you there. And I'd love to meet your mother if that is ever possible. But I wish you all the best.
Much.
Thank you so much for spending time with me.
Thank you for having me.
And that was my meeting with Hadas Yosef, an Ethiopian Israeli and one of Israel's leading young architects. I hope you enjoyed hearing her story and her perspectives on Israeli life. Of course, as always, I invite you to share your thoughts with me. Anything that Hadas has said, if it raised a thought in your own mind, please email me, write me, post on Shalom TV's Facebook wall, or tweet me. I look forward to hearing from many of you. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. Be well, my friends.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who can send a tax-deductible contribution of $36 or more to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media to help support our programming. Tax-deductible checks may be made out to GEM and mailed to GEM, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. Please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD, and we thank you for your kind support.